Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. My name's Alana. I currently live in Los Angeles. I'm from Hawaii originally. I write a food blog. I'm in the process of writing a cookbook, and food's kind of my life at the moment.
How would you describe Hawaiian cuisine to someone who's never tasted it before? And can you give us an introduction and tell us about its influences?
Sure. Let's see, if you've never tasted it, super simple flavors. Believe it or not, it's very meat-centric. There are very few staple foods. So if you're talking about just Hawaiian food specifically, taro root is a big one, coconut, and then pig, like pork, for sure. And then once you bring in all the other influences, so basically there was a big plantation era in which all of the different ethnic groups that now populate Hawaii came in. So that's like Japanese, Chinese, Korean, you know, I could go on. And so those foods now have influenced the way that we're cooking. So it's not just Hawaiian food, it's also Japanese food that's very specific to Hawaii, where we're adding sugars into what usually was very salty with all the soy sauce, or like Korean food but with like a Hawaii flair, in that like when they had the plantations, basically all these workers came over and they only had access to X amount of ingredients. And so maybe the Filipino guy had green onions and the Chinese guy had noodles. And so they all came together, and there's this unique melting pot kind of culture where we have dishes that are now specific to Hawaii that you can only find there, and it's because of that melting pot.
Okay. What's the recipe that you're going to share with us today? And is it a recipe that you grew up with?
Yes, okay. So the recipe that I'm sharing is ahi poke. I grew up eating it. My uncle was a fisherman. I mean, everyone's uncle was a fisherman. It is raw fish that's just tossed with a few ingredients. And so you've got onions, both green and sweet yellow onions. You have Hawaiian salt, soy sauce, sesame oil, and then if you want a bit of kick, then you can throw in some chili flakes, and that's it.
Okay.
I forgot one thing. This, I think, is pretty crucial. So there's always like a nutty element that you want to throw into it. In Hawaii, we use kukui nuts, which is like a candle nut, if I'm talking to the mainland. But since I can't really find that in California, I use macadamia nuts, which I just roast.
Okay. Okay. Does food and cooking play an important role in your family?
Food and cooking plays like the most important role, I'd say, in my family. So growing up, both my parents are excellent cooks. My dad is from California, and so he has a lot of like that California flair, but he also thinks he's French. He's not. He's German, but he thinks he's French, so he cooks a lot of French food as well. And my mom is born and raised in Hawaii, and so lots of Japanese food, lots of Hawaiian food. I mean, basically any food that you would cook in Hawaii, she can cook for you, whether it's Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Hawaiian. I mean, she's amazing.
Do they cook together, your parents?
No. With me in the kitchen, yes. We'll all come together and we'll cook, but for the most part, it's my dad cooks a meal, my mom cooks a meal. They have very different styles. They really have very different tastes, and so it's separate worlds.
Okay. How did you get into food blogging?
How did I get into food blogging? I loved food blogs. I read a ton of them. I was living in San Francisco at the time with my boyfriend, and he said, "You should write a food blog." And I said, "Yeah, okay, maybe." And he said, "I'm going to give you this URL. What would you call your food blog?" And I said, "I don't know." And on a whim, I came up with Fixed Feast Flair, which in hindsight, it's a bit of a tongue twister, but I wasn't thinking about it at the time. And so he gave me a URL. We kind of sat on it for 2 years and didn't do anything. And then I was working at Williams-Sonoma's corporate office at the time, and one of the guys there was like, "You should be in the food world. What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm here." Like, I work at Williams-Sonoma. He said, yeah, but what else? And I said, well, I could write a food blog. And so that's kind of when I took it to the next level.
Can you tell us a little bit about your cookbook?
Can I tell you about my cookbook? I would love to tell you about my cookbook. I'm currently at like the very beginning part, so I've developed a handful of recipes. I've shot my first 6 photos, which was like amazing and scary, and just I'm excited to see what my editor thinks of them. But what is it? So basically, like I was telling you, I want to teach people about what the food is in Hawaii. I want to tell them that it's not ham and pineapple. I want them to understand that it's so much more than just Hawaiian food. It's a mix of Hawaiian and Chinese and Japanese and all these cultures coming together. And so that is what you'll get in my cookbook.
And when will the book come out?
Oh gosh, I wish I could say it's coming out tomorrow. It'll come out in spring 2019.
Okay. Who is your biggest influence in the kitchen and why?
My mom is my biggest influence in the kitchen, 100%. The way that she approaches cooking, it's not recipes, it's really just something that she grew up doing with her parents. It's just, when I'm with her, I feel like I don't want to be anywhere else. Growing up, every Christmas, she would let me pick out 5 cookie recipes from this giant cookie book, and I could make whatever I wanted, I usually wanted to make the weird like Santa-shaped cookies with red food coloring and all of that. Yeah. And she would let me do that. And so for me, I want to be like her in the kitchen, which is making everything from no recipe cooking to cooking out of a cookbook to baking. I mean, she does everything, and so effortlessly.
That's beautiful. What do you miss about Hawaii? What makes Hawaii a special place for you, apart from the fact that you were born there?
I miss a lot of things about Hawaii. I miss the people, first and foremost. It's this warmth where you walk into somebody's home for the first time, but you feel like they've been in your life forever because they welcome you with a hug and a smile, and they bring out all the food that they could possibly make for you, and you tell them you're done, and they're like, oh no, just a little more. You know, it's like, I miss the people, first and foremost. Yeah.
The people. What do you love about your life in LA?
I love so much about LA. Specifically right now I'm living downtown, and I love the accessibility of everything. So I walk to the grocery store, I walk to dinner, I walk my dog to the park. I mean, there aren't a lot of places in LA where you can do that, and living downtown for me has been just, it opened so many doors in LA. I mean, people talk about LA in a way where it's like overwhelming because it's a giant city, and it is. But being down here in like the heart of the city is less overwhelming than being like in the outskirts, if that makes sense.
Yes. What is your favorite ingredient to cook with when you're in Hawaii, and what is your favorite ingredient when you cook here in LA?
My favorite ingredient when I cook in Hawaii, fresh fish. I mean, you can't get fish that is fresher than right off the boat, caught by your friend's husband or your uncle or, you know, the guy from down the street. So when I'm at home, I eat as much fresh fish as possible. I mean, all things considered, but yes. And then in LA, what's my favorite ingredient? I think I use a lot of soy sauce, actually. I use it in almost everything. I think it's like the backbone of like local Hawaii food, and so I grew up using it, and therefore I use it today. Yeah.
What does healthy food mean for you?
Healthy food to me is fresh ingredients, using the best possible ingredients that you have, not adding too much. To me, healthy is more about the ingredients than it is about gluten-free or vegan or whatever. It's just using good ingredients.
I'm going to ask you 6 short questions now. So, What's your greatest kitchen hack? Do you have a genius tip that you can share with us?
I don't know if this applies to everyone, but my greatest, most genius kitchen hack is how to crack open a coconut. So you need like a screwdriver and a hammer, and you poke 2 holes in the eyes and then 1 in the mouth. They're like these 3 little dots. And from there, you just drain out the coconut, and you take your screwdriver and your hammer and you just crack along this line that you can easily see. And right there, you've got an open coconut. To me, that's like the best hack ever.
If you could choose one person to cook a meal for you, who and what would it be?
If I could choose one person to cook a meal for me, it'd be the mochiko chicken that my mom makes. So my mom, mochiko chicken. Done.
You're going to have 10 friends over for a spontaneous dinner. What will be on the table?
I'm gonna have 10 friends over. That makes me nervous. I'm going to have like a stew. Something really easy that you just throw in a pot. Beef stew. Done.
Do you prefer to cook on your own or together with others?
I prefer to cook with people who know how to cook. So that's like, I prefer to cook with good cooks.
Do you prefer improvised or planned meals?
Oh, that's a tough question. Do I prefer improvised or planned meals? I prefer planning my meals, definitely. I think it's a lot easier ingredients-wise, yeah.
Which meal would you never cook again?
Oh gosh, I have so many. I made this, so my dad loves roast chicken, and I try a million roast chicken recipes whenever I can. So the meal that I would never cook again was this awful roast chicken recipe that told me to make the oven way too hot, and I'll never do that again, ever.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.